So I got inspired by playing some records on that Crosley unit that I just got working, and so I had this system which was bought for my little brother back in 1989, and sister inherited it, and then I got it maybe a year or so ago, year and a half ago, and it's been sitting on a shelf ever since. And I thought, well, I need to just set that up. It can't have too much wrong with it, hopefully. It's not like it's from the 70s and it's been sitting around and, you know, whatever. So I did, got it hooked up, and I don't know if you could tell. So the bottom's a CD player. It's actually playing a CD. The next one up is a tape deck, double tape deck. It works. The tuner above that works. The amplifier is showing that it's playing a CD, or it's tape. It's showing that it's looking for the CD, but nothing. I have messed around this thing. I mean, the face all seems to work on it, but it doesn't do anything. Zero output at all. So I don't know if there's a protection relay. So in case I didn't have enough projects, I went ahead and ordered the service manual for that amplifier. And once I get this Lafayette amplifier either working or to a point where I'm just disgusted with it again, I don't know, I'll take this thing out and see if I can get it working again, just to have some kind of a system here in the house to listen to some stuff on. So the service manual came in for this Kenwood today, and I thought I'd come out here and have a quick look at it. I figured there can't be too much wrong with it. Maybe the speaker protection relay or muting circuit being on or something like that. So I spent a bunch of time troubleshooting that. I had the speakers tied in up here to the top speaker rail, speakers A, going through my box here and all this stuff. And right now I have a 1 kilohertz sine wave at about 1 volt going into it. And I mean, it works. You can see now it's definitely working. If I go up pretty, too much, it's going to clip off there. But what I was going to show, what I figured out was just these top row. I mean, speakers A isn't working, only speakers B. So either it's probably the switch. So there's a couple switches right here in the front, and I'm going to need to take it apart, and it may just be filth in the switches. I don't know. Right now I just want to get it going. But if we look at this sine wave, you can see how one channel is obviously way bigger than the other channel. Let's see if I can try to overlay them a little bit closer. Yeah, look at that. So that is not optimal, but that's not going to stop me from listening to it. I have so many projects going on right now that I'm going to put this one into service in the house and just listen to it until I get my Lafayette going, my jukebox going, and maybe bring this one back out then and start doing these capacitors. So one of the things I was noticing when I started looking at some of these things, I don't know if you could tell, but see all the glue around the bottom of that? I've been learning from a bunch of videos, there's a bunch of glue around these too, that they use a very corrosive type of like epoxy glue or something to hold these capacitors on, and it actually corrodes the legs off of whatever they touch. It corrodes steel. So at least all these big ones are going to have to be changed, and I'm guessing because of the size of that sine wave being so different that there may be some signal capacitors in there that are just out of tolerance. It's from 1989, so that wouldn't surprise me a lot. I just don't want to take on another big project right now. I'd like to get it going just so I can go in there and listen to some records once the belt comes in for the turntable and I figure out what's going on with that turntable. We're going to see if the problem with those speakers is just the switches. These are the speaker switches pulled out. There's a little bit of a pain underneath this little protection circuit board right here. So I sprayed some of this special contact cleaner and lubricant in there for switches and worked them in 200 or 300 times. I just did my best to try to get some of that stuff to leak in there. I don't really want to take these switches apart and risk damaging them, but we'll see. While I've got this thing all the way apart, I think I'll go ahead and clean that front cover. I'm about to put it back together and check it out. So interesting but not great development. Clean those two switches, put it back together. I've got it working. Speaker A terminals are now working, but that is what the 1 kilohertz sine wave looks like at 0.2 volts per division. Now let me, on speakers A, now let me show you what it looks like at that exact same settings for speakers B. That's the difference. Same volume level, I'm trying to get it to where it's not glare. Same volume level. Let me turn the volume down so we can see that. Yeah, so that's on speakers B. Huge, huge, huge difference there. Oh, and by the way, the balance is, so here's the balance knob on center, right there. There's the differences. So I have to bring the balance knob almost all the way to the left to get those channels to look the same. And the scope's not fading out. It's the way I'm holding my phone. It just has to catch the light just right. The amplifier is as good as it's going to be for now, so I kind of just moved on to this turntable. If I'm able to use that amp, I will. If I'm not, it's just going to be back burner. But this thing here, if I can use it, I want to be able to use this turntable. So I took it apart, like I said before, it's not spinning the motor or anything. I checked the switch, the on-off switch, it works. I'm looking, there's this little IC chip, which is very black and burned. I'm going to take this power supply board apart just to see if I see anything on there. But I'm suspecting that. I'm going to put some voltage on that motor. I'm betting it's fine. I'm betting it's that little chip. I don't know what that could be. That's LA5515. I don't know if that's an op amp chip. I'm guessing it looks, I'm thinking op amp chip, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I may have to get another one of those. I may anyways, even if that doesn't turn out to be the problem, just because there's so much obvious heat damage right there on that corner that I don't like it. I don't want to put it back together that way for as little cost or something like that's going to be. Besides that, I already ordered a belt. I might as well replace an IC. Well, that was quick. So checking this power supply board, just with the probes here on the output, DC on the meter, 0, nothing. And that's before the switch, so it shouldn't matter if that switch is in or not in. This just has to put out, I don't know, it's going to be at least 5 volts. It's probably a 5-volt motor. I don't know, it doesn't say. It's a Senko motor. Anyway, all right, like I said, I'm going to take this apart now and we'll see what it looks like. Here's what I've got. So we've got incoming power from here to here, which is 120 volts, and 120 volts to here on that trace. Other side of that trace, 9 volts. It said 4 a few minutes ago. There is a 11 nanofarad capacitor on the other side of this trace right here. I checked that capacitor with some in-circuit stuff, and I mean, 11 nanofarads is very, very close, but my ESR meter is testing open. It's not letting anything through it. 9 volts across that thing, and it should still be, I mean, there's going to be a small voltage drop, but not like that. So I'm getting virtually nothing, 9 volts or whatever to this transformer right here. Let's see what we've got. Yeah, 4, that's what I was seeing earlier. 4 volts to the transformer. That should be roughly 120. Other side of this should be our, whatever our in voltage is 5 volts or whatever, go through this diode rectifier, and output should be 5 volts. Probably 7, then 5 on the output because of the drops across those diodes right there. So let me get a 400 volt, 11 nanofarad capacitor for that. I'm going to go ahead and get a new IC, because even if this one is still good, which I can't test because I don't have power, maybe I can test that with an ohmmeter if I get the data sheet. I'm going to replace it anyways because of all that heat damage. Might as well. These are cheap parts, just don't have them. Since I didn't want to get into rebuilding that Kenwood amp yet, I was able to pick this one up from a thrift store for $10. This little Onkyo looked pretty good from the front. I guess mid-80s design, late 80s, something along those lines. Got it on the test bench right now. Took it apart to have a look, cleaned it out. It was pretty filthy. Spent some time cleaning the controls, the buttons, the knobs, everything. And that's made a huge difference on the signal it's putting out. But just looking at the inside of this, it looks hollow compared to what that Kenwood looks like. There is just not a lot of meat to this thing. It's, much, much more basic system, I guess. It says 160 watt amplifier, which means 80 watts peak per channel, which probably means something like 65 RMS, which is probably a huge exaggeration. I don't really care. This isn't the one I want to get going. I just want to have something I can listen to. So I've got my sine wave going in, coming out, looks pretty good, but here's what's interesting. This is with the balance knob, wait a minute, there we go, tried to balance. Here's with the balance knob centered. Notice how one channel is so much bigger than the other? Exactly the same scenario as that Kenwood. I mean, I can listen to it this way. At least the speaker, I turn the speakers off and on, and the speaker switches work on this one after cleaning them better. And I'm not getting a protection circuit on. So on that Kenwood, after messing with it for a while, I guess it was getting hot, just heated up, it was constantly having the protection circuit come on and not putting out anything at all. So I may try it in the house with some of that stuff. I took it, and like I said, I don't want to rebuild that right now. But maybe I'll be able to listen to this one instead until I get ready to rebuild that other one. It's down the list on my projects a little bit. New motor driver chip on the board here. I went ahead, as long as I was in here, and replaced the capacitors, that little guy there, and there's a big one on the power supply board. Now I'm going to go through and clean out all this grease, put some fresh grease in here, we'll flip it over, put a new stylus on that I bought, and see if it works. I got the electrical repairs done, and I was having a heck of a time figuring out the auto return problem. I had this gear off and all this linkage down here replacing the grease and stuff, and I kept thinking, man, I cannot get this thing lined back up. There's a pin through here that goes to a linkage that lifts the tone arm up and down. Then there's one back here that, anyway, that is the auto return. So what happens is, as the record is spinning, there's a hole, or there's a gap in this gear, in the main gear down here. And if you either hit the button on the front, this is to lift it, it hits this arm, pushing this metal bracket in, where that tab will make contact with this pin, with this pin sticking out of this gear, and it spins it, right? And it'll turn the gear around. Or when the tone arm gets all the way to the center there, it does the same thing. This plastic piece goes through, hits this tab right here, moves this over to where this pin hits the tab. So what happens there, now you normally would have a belt on here turning the turntable sitting on here, turns this thing. So now it's turning the gear, and you can kind of see the linkage working. It takes the tone arm back and sets it back down. That's the auto return mechanism. It kept getting hung up. What I found was this little nylon gear here in the center had shrunk and cracked all the way down. I should have videoed that, but I didn't. So what I ended up doing is I pulled this entire thing apart, ended up changing the gear out in this spindle, and why that looks so bad right there is I cleaned it out with alcohol, glued the entire thing, and I melted a piece of wire going all the way across there down into the nylon. So that's melted in there. I went over the top of that with baking soda and super glue to kind of build it up. Then I filed that down, and I did the same thing on the inside. And then I drilled it back out to 10 millimeters, same diameter as this shaft right here. So now it seems to work. I'm put this whole thing back together, and I'm hoping I can listen to a record tonight. So after a couple of hours of figuring out how the auto return worked and adjusting and readjusting yesterday, I took it in to play a record, and the auto return didn't work. What the heck? So today I'm out here, and all I did was take the back off, go through everything, make it all move around. I don't think I did anything, but I've got it working. So all we do, we bring it up, arm over, thing starts going. If we watch in the middle, you can see the adjuster. See the wheel moving around? Takes it, goes back, sets it down, motor stops. I don't know. It likes it out here in the shop better than it likes it in the house. I like it better in the house. It's about 93 degrees in here, but maybe this is where I listen to records from now on. Here's the system running. Everything works. Everything is on. Right now I'm playing my jukebox guts, so some recorded music, stuff that's going to go in the jukebox later through the main amplifier here. That's what that little screen on the right, that 7-inch screen with the VU meters is showing. But yeah, listening to records, everything sounds great. Got a subwoofer there at the bottom. The only things I'm not sure if I should do yet, and I think I'm going to wait, is put new belts on the cassette decks and on the CD player, just because they're from 1989. Everything seems to work on it, but I don't want them to completely turn to grease and oil and have a terrible time getting them off. Issue I'm having with that is finding the service manuals online. I can find paper copies on eBay, but the guys wanting them, it's two different stores, and I think it's the same person. They're wanting $20 a piece plus shipping for service manuals, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 service manuals on this thing. I did have to buy the amplifier service manual just to get that thing going. But as far as the cassette decks and the CD players, I don't want to take them apart, measure the belts, then order stuff and leave them apart on the workbench. I've just got too many things going on. Perhaps if I knew what they were, I'd go ahead and get them on order and, spend an afternoon doing that. Not really sure, but loving it. It sounds great. It's super fun. Can't wait to get those other speakers on there. So this is my my little custom streaming amplifier that I made. And then these are some projects up here. Some of these I've been having for years and years. So on my to-do list, still looking for some tubes for that Teledyne. I think it takes 6, but when I have found them, they're all super old, right from the 20s. People are asking a mint for those things. I can't remember how much, but not affordable just to have it sitting on the shelf as a decoration. If I can find the tubes for a reasonable price, I'm going to buy them and try to get that thing working. And of course I have those Marantz systems up there, and I bought a dual turntable and a parts one because of course I bought a broken thing. And ideally I'll have those things running with that dual and be able to switch between some of these other receivers from time to time, including this Kenwood one, because as you saw on the inside of that, it's a pretty nice one. It sounds great. I love it. Of course I don't have a ton to compare it to since these other things aren't runnable yet.